In the Japanese version, Vermillion Blade Ardyn appeared at the same time as Cobalt Blade Noctis. Personally, I thought it was a cool idea, since they were similar in a few ways. Well, even if I were a Japanese player, which I wasn't, I wouldn't have tried getting them as a free-to-play, so I might not have a right to force my opinion onto you. So, if you excuse me, I will now proceed to force my opinion onto you. Interestingly, Vermillion Blade Ardyn has also received some significant changes compared to his initial release in Japan. I'll acknowledge them as I go along. First up, his Trustmaster reward. It's a strong sword that permanently boosts your unit's dark damage by 10%. If your unit's name is Noctis or Ardyn, it will also boost your unit's jump damage by 100%. His Super Trustmaster reward is Someone's Close. It boasts a strong spread of stats, increases your unit's dark resistance by 50%, grants a human killer, and boosts jump damage by 100%. Active abilities. His offensive abilities deal physical damage that chain with Stardust Ray. Warp Shadow deals dark damage, lets Ardyn evade 2 attacks, and imbues dark onto him. Inferno Sword lowers the enemy's dark resistance by 120%. Power of the King of the Demons is a cooldown ability that inflicts disease, and grants Ardyn a powerful killer buff against fairies. Endless Grudge can be used 5 times per battle and deals damage. Passives. With his Trustmaster reward or Super Trustmaster reward equipped, he has a Guts buff. 2 of them, in fact. He has a strong killer against humans and fairies, with another big boost to his Limber Burst damage. The man prefers to dual wield in this form, with the associated stat and chain cap boosts granted as he does so. His normal attack's been changed to chain with Bolting Strike. Just like Noctis, he's also been given a buff so that he automatically fills his Limber Burst gauge when he enters the battle, which wasn't available in the Japanese version of the game. Let's look at his Limber Burst. It deals damage and can inflict a sword in peril up to 25%. Time to change forms. Vermillion Blade Ardyn now has a true Brave Shift, much like Cobalt Blade Noctis. You should totally watch that video to find out more. Anyways, active abilities. Retribution is a jump. However, it should be noted that it's gone through a few changes. Like Noctis, its jump time has been reduced. However, unlike Noctis, it is no longer locked into a single element, much like how Noctis was locked into light. As a non-elemental attack, you have the freedom to imbue him as you please. Phantasm is a cooldown ability that raises Ardyn's attack by 300%. Increases his Limber Burst damage by 150%, raises his dark damage by 20%, and enables Spectral Charge Plus, and Spectral Charge Plus. Now, just what did these incredibly creative abilities accomplish, you ask? Well, they raise the damage modifier of Retribution by a bit, and they do so by increasing increments. They also each fill Ardyn's Limber Burst gauge by 1/3 its max capacity. Endless Darkness is a Grandis ability that can be used 5 times per battle. It deals dark damage that chains a Stardust Ray and lowers the enemy's dark resistance by 120%. His passives are basically the same, though his fire resistance has transformed into dark resistance. Onto his Limber Burst. It deals damage. Let's rank Brave abilities. I'd prioritize raising Retribution to deal more damage, and Inferno Sword to deal more damage. Speaking of damage, time to make a damage rotation. On turn 1, switch forms. Cast Phantasm, Endless Darkness, and Warp Shadow. On turn 2, switch back and activate his Limber Burst. On turn 3, activate his Brave Shift once again, and cast Spectral Charge Plus, and Spectral Charge Plus. On turn 4, cast Retribution. On turn 5, tap a chain as you land. On turn 6, switch back and cast Inferno Sword, Warp Shadow, and Endless Grudge. From there, the rotation begins again. If it applies, you can throw in Power of the King of Demons. I'd suggest doing so after turn 3, and pairing it with Warp Shadow and Inferno Sword. In return, ignore the previous turn 6, and just begin the rotation once more on turn 7. So how good is Vermillion Blade Ardyn? See that occupied hole in the ceiling? Yeah, he doesn't quite make it, to the relief of the other two. Well, the image is an exaggeration. Ardyn's damage output falls a bit short to Cobalt Blade Noctis' extreme light spike, yet Ardyn's damage is rather close. To put it simply, it's not a relevant difference outside of dark visions. There is further divergence though. Killers are a clear deviation, and disease itself is also fairly useful, though only if it actually works. But there is a more significant difference, their jump ability. Unlike Noctis, Ardyn's jump is not locked into an element, so Ardyn himself potentially has more universal application than Cobalt Blade Noctis. However, the modifier itself is also lower. You should check out Cobalt Blade Noctis' reveal if you want clearer details. Regardless, it's pretty clear that the developers want players to choose between a powerful finisher with a substantial niche, and a weaker yet comparable all-rounder. Unfortunately, since we have the power to look into the future, we are aware of an incredibly potent light supporter, who was given away for free in the Japanese version. That's not to say there wouldn't be an equally effective Dark supporter, but even if such a unit appears, you'd likely pair that unit up with a more powerful Dark finisher in the end. Thanks for watching, and if you like this video, leave a like and subscribe. Comment below if you plan to summon Vermillion Blade Ardyn, and if you happen to know what happened to him here. I considered having the picture show up suddenly, but that might be a bit much, so I decided to just fade it in slowly. Not that it makes it any less ominous though.